what is the better state, Missouri or Kansas, when you're moving to the Kansas City metropolitan area. Now, this is going to talk about lifestyle, entertainment options, home prices, and so hopefully by the time this video is over, you will have a great understanding of the Kansas City metropolitan area, and hopefully you will take one side or the other and make your decision on which side is better for you. Hi, my name is Anita Cordell, and I make videos about all things Kansas City. I'm also a team lead of the Yellow Brick Group. I'm a real estate agent, and we help people just like you buy, sell, relocate, and invest right here in our amazing city. I have lived on both sides of the state line. I've lived in Kansas as well as Missouri, and there are luxuries across the city. There is no clear-cut way for me to say one side of the state line is way better than the other side, because it's definitely something that you have to determine based upon your lifestyle. Whether or not you have kids, and whether or not you're married, and what your plans are for your future, and where you work at. That is what we're going to be covering today. And also too, if a suburban lifestyle is good for you, one thing that you might want to take into consideration are those suburb cities that are around there versus living right down in the downtown area, which is the Kansas City, Missouri area. In fact, if you want to learn more about living downtown, I've actually done a whole video about why I think you would love that area if that's kind of your lifestyle, and you can find that link here in the description below. If you are ready to move to Kansas City, or you're looking to purchase a property, my contact information is going to be there. There's even actually a Calendly link that goes right to my calendar. You can set up a video conference call and we can talk about your real estate goals. Now let's start diving into what it's like to live on both sides of the state line. There are two military bases right near Kansas City. One is Fort Leavenworth, it's the Army base, and then the other one is Whiteman Air Force Base, which is on the Missouri side. Both of them are about 35 to 40 minutes away from the suburb area of Kansas City. Fort Leavenworth is just a little bit closer to the whole metropolitan area. Whiteman Air Force Base is just a little bit farther, and a lot of military people move into this area. So even if you are watching this video and you are moving to one of those military bases, this information still will be good for you. Even if you're living in, say you're moving to or PCSing to Fort Leavenworth, there's options both on the Kansas and the Missouri side that you can choose from when you're PCSing to Fort Leavenworth. Whiteman Air Force Base, not so much, but PCSing to Fort Leavenworth, you have the option. All right, so let's talk first about the cost of living. There are several different taxes that you'll want to take a look at. So first of all, we're going to talk about income tax rates. In Kansas, the income tax rate is 4.68. Missouri, it's 3.59%. Sales tax in Kansas, it's 6.5%, and in Missouri, it's 4.23%. One of the things that's really cool about Missouri is that a couple weeks before school starts, there is a weekend that there will be no taxes on school supplies and various things. It's like the whole state just turns off their taxes. So be sure and watch the news, because anything purchased for school and getting you school supplies will not have sales tax. Okay, when it comes to property taxes, Kansas again is higher than Missouri at 1.29. Missouri is 0.91%. And then corporate income tax rates is also higher. In Kansas is 7% and Missouri is 6.25%. The Kansas excise tax is 24 cents per gallon on gas, versus Missouri, it's 17 cents per gallon. So you want to buy cigarettes in Kansas, that tax is 79 cents per pack, and in Missouri, it's 17 cents per pack. And then if you want to purchase liquor in Kansas, it's $2.50 per gallon, and in Missouri, it's $2 per gallon. So you can see overall, the taxes are higher on the Kansas side than they are on the Missouri side. Now, if you want to keep track of taxes, especially if you are moving in from another state, you can actually go to tax-rates.org and you can take a deeper dive into the tax rates and actually compare it to the state that you're moving in from. Now, if you own a vehicle, you're going to want to take this into consideration, because if you are living on the Kansas side, most of the Kansas area is very vehicle dependent, especially if you live out in the suburbs. Now, if you live in the Missouri area, especially downtown, then there are people that don't even own cars. You've got a lot of transportation. Public transportation is Casey Street cars. I know people that have moved downtown and they have sold their car, and everything you need is very, very close to multiple places in downtown. But if you live on the outskirts of the Kansas City metropolitan area, in those suburbs, both on the Kansas and the Missouri side, you're going to really need a vehicle. Now, speaking of vehicles, Kansas is, interestingly enough, it does not require you to get a paid inspection for your vehicle when you are paying for the registration fees every year or every 2 years. If you buy a vehicle from out of state, then they do check the VIN number and they do check to make sure that everything's a-okay. Whereas Missouri, you have to get it inspected to make sure that your lights and your signals work and whatever, and make sure that you understand that, because you do have to have your vehicle registered and you do have to have that inspection when those registrations come up. Those aren't big, huge deals when it comes to owning vehicles. It's just really what you have to do. But those are things to note that are different than each state. When it comes to lifestyle, this is a big hot topic when it comes to whether or not somebody is choosing to live on the Missouri side or choosing to live on the Kansas side. The entertainment and the lifestyle is huge, and this is where a lot of people will argue with each other. If you live in one state and want to go to the other state, it's not that far of a commute, so you would think that this argument would be because there's such a vast difference, but the commute back and forth is not that big. So if you end up deciding to move and live on the Missouri side and work in the Kansas side, the commute is really not that bad if you need to live in those two states. But if you don't have the need to travel across the state line, then you could literally live in one side and not travel ever to the other side. Now, here's where the argument comes in when it comes to entertainment. There are some people believe that there's so much more to do on the Missouri side, and it's so much better to live on the Missouri side than it is on the Kansas side. So it really just depends on your lifestyle. Honestly, a lot more diverse things to do, I feel, on the Missouri side than on the Kansas side, but that's changing. If you're into like all of the arts and all kinds of museums, most of that is over on the Missouri side. And in fact, you've got Platte City, which is Kansas City's hallmark town. There's all kinds of museums. There's the Truman Library. There's Kansas City Downtown Library, which is historic in and of itself. There's Weston, Missouri World War I Museum. There's Union Station, Crown Center, and of course there's Worlds of Fun and Oceans of Fun. So that's why people defend Missouri and say Missouri is so much better, because there's so much more to do when it comes to that. The other thing is that there's more lake communities on the Missouri side than there is on the Kansas side, but you've got Shawnee Mission Park on the Kansas side that is absolutely amazing and beautiful. There's so much of a diverse area to do, when it comes to that. But I will tell you this, there's this perception that people on the Missouri side, Missourians are rougher and more redneck and just more raw, I guess. And yet then people have the perception of the Kansas side, thinking and calling them snobbish and very hooty-tooty, I guess. So there's a perception of the type of people that live on one side of the state line, on the other. And I have clients that that say, I will never, ever, ever buy in this state. Now, the cost of the living is interesting because it's a minimum wage. And so while some people may never want to live in Missouri, the minimum wage is actually higher. So as of 2025, the minimum wage is going to be $13.75. And then in 2026, that's going to move up to about $15 an hour. However, in Kansas, the minimum wage is only $7.25. According to 500kansas.org, the living wage in Kansas is $11.17. So if you are making minimum wage, you can't even really take care of your family if you live on the Kansas side. It's interesting because most of the time people will say that it is cheaper to live on the Missouri side. The minimum wage is higher, taxes are lower, and yet sometimes people still prefer the Kansas side. One of our news stations has put together a website. It's fox4kc.com/Kansas City area gas prices. You can go there and actually see where in the Kansas City area is the cheapest gas prices. So you could follow it along on a daily basis. Interestingly enough, Leavenworth is one of the areas that gas is the cheapest, and so is Platte City. Now let's talk about home prices and populations per county, because if you're considering living in the area or moving to the area, then you want to know this information, right? There is a difference between Kansas City, Missouri and Kansas City, Kansas. There's probably about 50 different municipalities in the Kansas City metropolitan area, and every city or suburb even has their own police force. Now, there is a distinct difference in some pockets between houses that are on the Kansas side and houses that are on the Missouri side. Kansas is been known for a very cookie cutter type style of homes. Missouri side, especially in like the Waldo area and the Brookside area and closer to the downtown area, you're gonna find that there are a vast variety of styles. They are not cookie cutter. You're gonna find Tudor homes, two-story old homes that are brick, but Missouri has a lot more of a diverse type of style of homes, especially in those older homes, than what Kansas does. So let's dive into looking at some of the data when it comes to states and the counties. So the first one that I want to cover is Jackson County. Jackson County's population is about 718,560. It's basically on the eastern side of the State Line Road, and it covers all the way downtown and south into like the Grandview area. And there's definitely a dividing line between Kansas and Missouri. And when you're passing the State Line Road, you're hitting into Jackson County. Now, the median price range of Jackson County is $267,500, and that was for a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath home, and that square feet on that property is 1,756. Now, if we move over into Johnson County, things are a little bit different. Population is 622,237, and this is all the western side. When you hit that State Line Road on I-70, you're gonna hit Jackson County on one side and Johnson County on the other. The median sales price is $450,000, and it was for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home with a 2,477 square feet. The third largest populated county here in the Kansas City metropolitan area is Clay County, and the population for Clay County is 259,772. The median sales price in Clay County is $325,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath home, and it's got a 2,056 square feet. Then the next county that I'm going to cover is Wyandotte County. The population in Wyandotte County is 165,281. The median sales price is $224,000, and that was for a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath home at 1,490 square feet. Then we move to the next populated one, Platte County. Population of Platte County is 111,940. And the median sales price is $398,000 for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home that has 2,264 square feet. And lastly, but not least, is Cass County. Cass County's population is 111,732. The median sales price is $321,500, and that was for a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath home that had 1,829 square feet. So if you're traveling south on the urban core and you're headed down State Line Road, you are headed into the southern part of Johnson County and the southern part of Jackson County, you will find some of the most wealthiest residential districts in the entire Kansas City metropolitan area. If you go west from that area and you'll start to head into like Leawood, Kansas, those are some very wealthy neighborhoods as well. So you will find really nice suburbs on both sides of the state line. So it just really is going to depend on your situation. This is hands down a very popular opinion, whether you live on the Kansas side or whether you live on the Missouri side. There's really nothing in Kansas that even remotely comes close to the urban part of the Kansas City metropolitan area when it comes to housing. There's a definite difference in the lifestyle. The housing in that area, like Brookside and Hyde Park, those types of homes that are in that area are not an option in Kansas. So if you're liking that style of home, you're not gonna probably find it in Kansas. If I am wanting an older home, that's the area that I would go to. And if you're wanting something more of a suburban feel, you can find that on both sides of the state line. There's 4 counties that I covered that are on the Missouri side and 2 on the Kansas side. There are some distinct differences even on the 4 counties within the Missouri side when you're talking about where to live. Now, there's a lot of people that actually like living in the northern part of the Kansas City area. They might work downtown and it's only maybe a 10 to 15 minute drive. So all that area is really close to the downtown area as well. Now let's talk about the schools. According to niche.com, there are 8 different school districts that I wanted to cover. And interestingly enough, the first 8 school districts, half of them are in Kansas and half of them are in Missouri. So the number 1 school district is the Blue Valley School District. That is in Overland Park, Kansas. Number 2 is the Lee Summit R7 School District, and that's on the Missouri side. Then you've got number 3, which is the Blue Springs R4 School District. The number 4th school district is the DeSoto School District, which is on the Kansas side. The number 5 is Olathe School District, which is on the Kansas side. The number 6 is also on the Kansas side. It's the Shawnee Mission School District. Then you've got number 7, which is the Park Hill School District, and number 8, Liberty School District. And Park Hill and Liberty are both on the Missouri side. I want to tell you, there is really no wrong answer. You're going to hear a lot of opinions about Missouri being better or Kansas being better, and it's again really going to be up to you as to whether or not the lifestyle is going to be conducive for you and your family. For us, we've lived on the Kansas side and we've lived on the Missouri side, and we've been on both sides of the state line in different seasons of our lives, and so it has been good for us whatever season we're on. If you take all things into consideration, it's really equal in my opinion, because there's some give and there's some take depending on what your lifestyle is all about. Don't forget, my contact information is in the description below. I hope you click on that link. I would love to talk to you about your real estate goals, and as always, go out and live your best Kansas City life.